Yo, yo, it's ODB from OLP. Thanks for coming back every week and rocking with us. Well, I should say every other week, but I am putting up other videos in between. If you're on a podcast app, thank you. Don't forget you can listen via YouTube and you can watch. You're going to get a much richer experience, especially on this episode. Episode 385, I want to give a huge shout out to our title sponsor, Scraping the Coast. Every June in Biloxi, one of the biggest and baddest shows in the country. Mini Truck Hall of Fame inducted, good people, scraping with an IN, thecoast.com. Now, listen, this intro is going to be, dare I use the Q word? I'm going to try to speed it up. Let me say that and do a quicker intro. I just used it, the Q word, because we have a jam-packed, a very, very cool episode. Now, I know some of you are going to look at the time, and if you're Tim or Randy, you're going to be doing the Arcidio Hall. Others are like, wow, that's a lot of content. I get it. Please, if you can, let this video play through on YouTube. It's a very cool episode. I've got my friend Dennis on, and Dennis is the individual who has roots back to California, loves Lincolns, was, going to mini truck shows back in the day, grew up in Cali, won the Roadster Shop / Goodguys Giveaway truck. It's a very cool story. No, it was not rigged. It's very neat. It's very, how do I say it? It was like such luck of the draw to be able to even get an opportunity to go to the finals. And he talks about a lot of that. So we got a lot to share there. I want to also give a huge shout out to the freaking weekend. Okay. Speaking of our title sponsor, 3 months afterwards, we're going to be in Biloxi again for the freaking with an IN weekend. You can go to thefreakinweekend.com and you'll see it's at 280 Beach Boulevard, Biloxi. This is a cool show because you walk across the catwalk, you walk down the stairs, and you're at the event. There's a pre-party, there's an after-party. It's good family fun. The kids can probably go do their thing, and then the adults can hit the after-party depending on how old your kids are. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We hope that you join us at the freaking weekend, of course, in September. And I would encourage you to go to the website because there's a lot of information out there. It's the 19th, 20th, and 21st. And congratulations to Tripp, who won him and his team won the OLP show of the year for 2024. So we gave that away. I'll be talking more about that stuff in the next episode, hopefully. Next up, I want to reinforce again, Dennis is going to be on, and we've got a very unique, I'll try to flash this image here when the truck was on the CK magazine. So that was actually, it seems like a while ago. But you have to understand that Goodguys really did a good job of promoting the buildup, if you will, as they would want. Goodguys Association wants to, of course, increase their memberships, if you will, and things like that. So they did a fantastic job with that. And tip of the cap to Roadster Shop. The CK Mag cover was insane. It's a cool truck, and we're going to talk more about that. The overview is brought to you by Hammered Weekend Wear. I tell you time and time again, HAMMERD, weekendwear.com. Hit them up, and they're good people. Go buy some merchandise. They've got skate decks, banners, shirts, stickers, hats, you name it. Some of the best merch in the business. Next, we got the breaking news, and this is the breaking news for you. Check this out. The new OLP awards. Now, I just took this out of this wrapping, so I need to kind of wipe it with some of my polish here. But these are the new OLP. I hinted at these in the last episode. These are going to be our new awards, and they have basically it's like a floating center cap. And this is pretty cool. I, of course, was wearing one at Mini Nats. We've got a cool necklace that goes with it as well. But these are billet. These are custom made by Phoenix Forged, and that's FENIX Forged with a D. You can find them on social media. We're going to be talking a lot more about their products in the near future. Kennedy is doing some great things, and he said, yo, ODB, I want to team up with OLP. Our next award that we're going to be giving away is at Scraping the Coast, and then we'll announce additional shows after that. But congrats to Matt Diaz for earning the first OLP award in billet at Mini Nats last weekend. Breaking news is brought to you by our kinfolk at Lone Star Throwdown. If you haven't heard, Lone Star Throwdown is one of the biggest, baddest shows in the world. Truck show every February in Conroe. Let's not forget, they also have expanded to the Classic Truck Throwdown which is trucks 25 years and older. So, oh, by the way, new body style Chevys are included in that now, right? So going up to the 88s, the 99s, the 2000s. But that's, of course, late June, I think now into July. But you can find more information on Classic Truck Throwdown. So check them out. The general updates. Listen, the summer is here is the way I see it. Spend some time with your family. I know on social media sometimes we see like people, wow, you're always out, you're always doing this. I'm sharing things like when I'm out doing that stuff, but there's a lot of weekends where I don't share anything, right? Because I'm doing family stuff. I'm working at the Ballard compound. I've been working on a huge project, much that you can see around me if you're watching on YouTube. So get out there, spend the time with your family, do the dang thing, enjoy life. The general updates is brought to you by Southeast Mini Truckin Nationals. Great show every April. That was last weekend. Many of you tuned into the top 10. Thank you. It was one of the biggest YouTube drops I've had. So I can't thank you enough for watching those top 10s. I want to continue to do those. But I also want to reinforce something that they made an announcement. Early October, I think it's the 10th, 11th, 12th, that brand is expanding. So they're going to move, of course, they've got Southeast Mini Truckin Nationals every April. Now they're moving into another show, which is totally separate, and that's going to be the Southeast All Truck Nationals, and that's going to be, I think it's October 10th, 11th, 12th. If you look up Jason Bell on Facebook, you'll see that information. Speaking of information, I want to give a shout out to Lowrider Depot, the big homie. Lives in Rhode Island. They're in the northeast. If you didn't know this brand, they've been around a long time, and if you need air suspension parts or components, I'd highly suggest that you look them up on YouTube or the website, I should say. I don't know where I was going with YouTube, but they're probably on YouTube as well. But Lowrider Depot is on Instagram. That's what I was trying to say. So big ups to the kinfolk there at Lowrider Depot. I got one question for the Mini Truckin Syndicate out there. Are you ready? Mike, if he was here, not gallivanting, he would say he's always ready to get it, what, Joey? To get it wrong. Yes. So can you name 3 of the main McDonald's characters? So many of you near my age or from the 70s, 80s, 90s kids, you'll remember those McDonald's characters. And I bring this one up because one of the biggest homies, someone I really look up to and I appreciate is LMC, which is Lee Caudell from Lowest Common Denominator podcast, one of my favorite podcasts. And he's a good dude, and we always would joke about some of the old McDonald's stuff and how kind of trippy it was and things like that. And you may recall when we had Leon in the past, I really just tripped out and laughed over some of our conversations. But how many McDonald's characters can you name? Now, I'm going to give you this one because many of you probably know Ronald McDonald. He also made Ronald McDonald has made an appearance at one of Lee's shows in the past, the 8 show, if I remember correctly. But are you ready for it? You got Grimace. You got the Hamburglar, Birdie the Early Bird, Mayor McCheese, Ronald McDonald, as I mentioned. I think Uncle O Grimacy. You have Officer Big Mac, and then the Fry Kids. I guess if you want to get technical, how many of those could you name? It's the honor system. We will update your binder. Trust us. Just let us know if you got it right. The trivia with Miggity Mike the Mayor, who's out gallivanting, is brought to you by our kinfolk at Garage Gear Clothing. They were at Mini Nats. They'll be at so many different shows. Hit up garagegearclothing.com. They do have free options for shipping. They're good people. They have merch for kids, the ladies, the guys, side-by-sides, sport trucks, lifted, lowered, you name it. garagegearclothing.com. The scene updates, I want to just reinforce, if you did not know, the new Mini Truckin magazine was launched, so you can go to minitruckinmag.net. These guys and the ladies behind the scene are working hard to bring you this publication. Logan and Matt know they've ran into some challenges. They've been as upfront as they can. They're working back with the postmaster. They're doing as much as they can to kind of work through those challenges. You could imagine in 2025, trying to put out something through the mail, it's just not easy. It seems much easier. Everybody kind of has the answer, so they think, but hopefully they'll be able to get that stuff sorted out. minitruckinmag.net. Speaking of magazines, the Scene Updates is brought to you by Local Rides Mag. If you want to support the real deal, support Bill and his wife and some of their kinfolk, it's Local Rides with the Z Mag. Google that or go to the website, order an issue or 2. They continue to come out with good stuff. It's homegrown. And it's a really good magazine that's definitely affordable. So salute to Bill and team. Next, we got Hut 1, Hut 2, Hut 3, Hut Old Dirty Ballard live and uncut. And this one I'm going to spin around on you. As you're driving, as you're working, as you're gallivanting, what are some things that you can do or that you want to do to improve your life? What are some goals that you have set that you want to set maybe for the second half, right? We just peeled into May. So we got a little bit left before the halfway mark in 2025, right? You probably came into 2025 with some goals, some New Year's resolutions, right? Or whatever you call those. What are those things that you want to meet, right? So get out there, reevaluate those lists. I'm a mental list, bullet point type person. I'm also a big list guy, if you will, in my notes. Reassess where you want to be, right? Where do you want to be in 6 months? Where do you want to be at the end of the year, if you will? And, what are some of those goals you want to meet as you kind of get sideways, if you will, peeling out legally into 2026? We're not getting any younger, folks. So do what makes you happy and try to set those goals. ODB Live and Uncut is brought to you by Phoenix Forged with a D rather. And again, we've got these cool awards. They make custom wheels. I want to continue to highlight these folks, and they're good people. I know if you look at their socials and their website, you're going to see a lot of lifted stuff, but Kennedy has reinforced they're going to continue bringing to market additional products. So tip of the cap. Podcast updates. So I want to reinforce something. Hopefully by the time this episode comes out, if you have not and you want to get in on our minis are the name of the game, aka paying homage to bass is the name of the game, which is the DJ Magic Mike album from 1990, which I have on vinyl, CD, and cassette, of course. This amazing artwork by Graphic Disorder. Thank you so much. Those are on our website. We do have a pre-sale, if you will, that's going to go down one day after this one posts with our Fireball design, an epic full-size design that's going to be under our full-size syndicate line. So check out our lifestyle podcast.com or click the link in our Instagram bio to go ahead and pre-order that. There's 2 shirts available in the pre-sale pre-order. One is going to be the gray, and with that, the other one's going to be black. We're only going to stock black, so if you want a different color shirt, if you want a hoodie, if you want the tall sizes or the larger sizes that we don't typically stock, please look us up and get in on that pre-order. That's going to be about a week. We want to have these in hand for Scraping the Coast. And if you want to do the free pickup, there will be a code that will be in the description of the item, probably STC2025. And if you're going to be at Scraping, you can pick up your order there to avoid the shipping costs. With that being said, I want to again thank The Freaking Weekend in Biloxi every September. Good people. The pre-party and the after-party are always dope. Thanks to our title sponsor, Scraping the Coast, SCRAPIN, thecoast.com. Go out there, support the merch, support our vendors or our partners, if you will. And thanks to Phoenix Forged for these amazing awards. Don't be trying to chain snatch anyone. ODB, much love, much respect. Spend some time with your fam. It's going to be a great month. Enjoy this interview with Dennis. It's jam-packed. And tip of the cap to Dennis, his awesome wife, his kids. Thanks for rocking with us at Lone Star Throwdown. ODB, you know what's up. We out here. Peace. Yo, I am so excited. One of my most anticipated interviews, I got to say, over the past 10 years or so. I became quick friends with my buddy Dennis. And Dennis, dude, just thank you so much for taking the time.
Absolutely, dude. I'm super stoked to be here, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure. I tend to wait to the end sometimes. Why don't you give a shout out to your awesome wife who I met, your 2 boys, and tell everybody where you kind of live now out in the big Lone Star.
Yes. So 20 years in the making, my wife Ashley. And I have a 5-year-old and 8-year-old, Carson and Braxton. Carson's my oldest. I live in Keller, Texas, just outside of Fort Worth. I love it here. I moved here in 2018 from Orange County, California. I was there my whole life and just wanted a little more land and just wanted to little change of pace in life. So it's been great for us. It really has. So yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And I wanted you to give them a shout out because I tell you what, at Lone Star Throwdown, one of our favorite shows at OLP, we had such a great time this year and like meeting your wife and just how awesome she was. And, we often say behind a guy or a dream, the better half, right? For most of it's our wife, right? Our better
she
half.
keeps me on the straight and narrow, no doubt. I'd probably be off the rails if it wasn't for her keeping me in line. So I have to admit to that.
Yeah, then you got the 2 awesome boys, like you said, and they're they're growing up and they're getting to see some cool stuff. So that's really cool.
Yeah, dude, they're in the backyard right now riding dirt bikes, man. That's how these kids are living, man.
Dude, they're living large, man, as they would say in the 90s. I know you and I connect so much over the 90s stuff, and sometimes I find myself using a lot of the 90s lingo.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So here's the cool thing that I'm so excited to talk about. In just a few minutes, we're going to kind of get into the story. If you look behind Dennis, what's really neat, I was so intrigued by this about the Goodguys / a Roadster Shop giveaway truck. There's a big story behind that. And thank you so much for kind of giving us the exclusive on this story. There's a Lincoln that we want to talk about as well, Dennis. Now, your last name, is it Whinnery?
Yes, Whinnery.
Okay, I was hoping I was going to get that right. So for those that are here on YouTube, thank you so much. If you're listening via a podcast app, I highly suggest, finish here, no problem. Some of you guys are over the road truckers, like the big homie Tim from Negative Camber, Florida, and Randy. But also, you're going to get a unique experience if you watch this on YouTube. We're going to have some visuals, and you're going to be able to see us both here. What's so neat, though, Dennis, you and I connected over the fact, and you said this a moment ago, like you grew up in California, and as a kid, everything seemed like cool was coming out of California, bikes and video games and this and that, and, computers and Apple and all this. Talk to us a little bit about like your childhood, some of the things you might remember, or even into your teenage years when you started going to shows.
Well, I mean, I've always gravitated to anything with basically an engine, wheels, and tires. I mean, from being a kid with RC cars to my BMX bike. And, I would just, fourth, fifth grade, grab a shovel, grab my BMX bike and build a jump until the streetlights came on. And then I'd go home, and did that until, graduated into dirt bikes, did that, through high school years. But always what really gravitated with me mostly was just trucks. Being in Orange County, California from, date of birth till I was 33, I felt like I was in the epicenter of just, truck land. It was amazing. And I might be a little, naive to that because I was a kid. I didn't know any better. But looking back, I feel like that was really the epicenter for trucking, mini trucking in general.
Yeah, wouldn't argue with that. And like you said, when you think of, I've only been to a couple of the areas out there. And in September 2022, I went to an area where, and I'm trying to remember the name of the town, but it was, I think like Huntington Beach area.
But yeah, Orange County, yeah.
Yeah, in Orange County. And you hear of the Chip Fooses and all these top shops and stuff. And yeah, I mean, to your point, you definitely saw way more cooler stuff than I did here in good old Land O'Lakes, Florida,
Right. I mean, it's crazy how much it struck and set with me because I remember being, I'm going to say 6 years old in 1991 and seeing just a slammed extended cab Silverado, 15-inch Boyd, scallop paint, tonneau cover, obviously the roll had to have the roll pan. And for some reason, I saw this truck and I don't know what, it just hit me and it just put the bug in me and I never could shake it off to this day. And, I was always that kid everywhere, all the kids are into sports and football and I was always just chasing the next truck or what was around. But I mean, from where I lived, I mean, my house, I was from maybe 3 miles from Boyd Coddington's shop in La Habra. I lived in Brea. MIC was at Anaheim Hills, which is probably 7 miles from my house. Chip Foos, Huntington Beach, that's, just about 15 miles. So these are all in the same county. And it was just so awesome seeing all these trucks. And again, at the time, I didn't realize how valuable this was and everything was at my fingertips. I didn't know. I just thought the whole world was like this. We just everybody has all this stuff in their backyard without me even knowing. But yeah, it was, I mean, just unreal growing up in that time with all those trucks. I mean, you got to think even, Mini Trucking Magazine, I think at the time was Macmillan Argus was the producer and they were in Placentia, which is right down the street. And I remember, I mean, literally seeing Mike Finnegan drive his Tacoma, with the crazy paint, driving that down the street, Steve Miller from MIC driving his, that body dropped truck with the eyeball on the back from, MIC did, the MIC dually, all of the Chip Foos builds. I mean, just crazy stuff. I mean, but yeah, it's insane. It really was.
Yeah, imagine growing up in the era. I think you and I and the folks from like the late 70s and the 80s were thankful that we didn't have phones back then, right? I remember going on a road trip. I was so bored. Imagine if you would have been, if you had a camera back then, be like, oh, look, there's Mike Finnegan, whatever. We lived in the moment, don't get me wrong. But like, to your point, I'm so glad like you have those vivid memories, man.
Oh yeah, I mean, you remember I was, I think I was a little behind because, I was born in 85, so I missed like the early 90s truck scene, even though I didn't have my license or anything. I was literally that kid who would ride my bike to, Boy Cardington's shop and literally just look in the windows and look at wheels and what was in his shop, because that's as far as my bike would take me as I could go. But I mean, just so awesome seeing all this stuff, just literally right in my backyard. And again, having those vivid memories of, seeing, a lot of the MIC, because that was huge in our area because MIC was, ginormous at the time. This was 99 to 03, somewhere around in there. Just the crew cut back when crew cut was the West Side dually. I mean, my buddies are having, trucks being bagged, body drop left and right by them. There's a lot of other shops too. Devious was in the beginning coming around. You have your old school stuff, like Hack Shack and, all your a bunch of little shops, that were around in that moment in time. But even, vendors, Sir Michael's, Cal Custom USA, I think Budnick. I mean, all these companies were just straight in Orange County. So it was, again, not our fingertips. It was ridiculous. But
Yeah,
yeah, to your
it
point, I mean,
definitely is
I'm glad we didn't have social media or anything like that. Just having the memories or whatever people post online is enough. It's pretty cool.
yeah, because I wasn't good at skateboarding or BMX, but I loved it as a kid, and I would make my little ramps like you were talking about. But if you think about like the pocket of the shops, right, within this 20, 30, 50-mile radius, and the same thing was like, there was Upland and there was all these different places like for skateboarding and stuff. It's intriguing to me like how there can be a such consolidated of like hot rodders or these different areas, and to me it's awesome. Do you like, for instance, I was talking to Ruben. I want to give a huge shout out to the homie Ruben Artiaga. A couple weeks ago I heard La Brea, and I probably was watching like a YouTube video, and I always think of the tar pits there, right? I think
Right.
La Brea, and he talks about, he goes, oh yeah, Jay, you got to go out to this and this and this, but it's neat. There's so many different things to even do there in California.
Yeah. La Brea is a city in that's a city in Los Angeles. Brea actually is just a city in Orange County.
Got it.
But yeah,
Okay,
a
La
lot of
Brea
people
and Brea.
always get them confused. I don't even know if I've
Yeah,
ever been to La Brea before. But the
yeah,
whole
I
time
know
I lived
California is
there.
such a big area. I
Oh,
love
dude,
going on Google.
there's a city for the city, dude. It's so congested, but yeah, it's crazy area.
Yeah. I can attest to that. The couple times I got a chance to go. Now, I wanted to ask you this because, like, you when we connected and you mentioned, some of the names, right, bring back that late '90s, early 2000 era. Even the Doug Starbuck. When we were talking, several months back, and you're going, man, some of the people that you've had on, like, those were the names I remember from this area. Did you, as you got a little bit older, did you find yourself like tugging, at the parents to go, hey, there's a truck show over here, like for instance, Irvine, right? They would have, I think, the spring California Truck Jamboree and things like that. Did you get an opportunity as you became a little bit older of a young adult to go to shows?
Not with my parents, but as soon as I could start driving, um, I could. So,
Okay,
I mean, all my friends were always like 5, 6 years older than me. It's just how our neighborhood worked. I was just the young kid, even though like my car fascination had anything to do with the age gap. So that was awesome to have, their rides to take me places, for the most part.
sure.
So, but no, as far as I didn't really start going to shows, I was able until like probably like 2001, 2, 3, and then back, before, let me tell you, what there was a show, I was on Sport Truck or SoCal Customs or Truck Run, on my parents' dial up, just trying to figure out what footage was there, Forbidden Fantasy Show and Shine, Severed Ties Oktoberfest, Cal Truck Jam. I never missed. I would try to go as much as I could when I could, but I mean, you got to think all the cruise nights. There was so many cruise. I mean, literally, if you're an OC trucker, there was the corner of Imperial and Rose or Bassin Cherries where they interconnect. There's a little place called Coffee Shack. There's a Del Taco in that corner, and it was just a swarm of everybody. If you had a muscle car, a hot rod, a mini trucker, if you were, sub 25 years old, it's where everybody met. So even if there wasn't a show, there was always somewhere at some given time where people were going to be hanging out. So it was
Yeah,
super cool.
I found on YouTube recently, and sometimes I don't share the sources because it's like it's kind of like a honey hole. But I found this video, and I tell you what, it was like the guy has the exact date because when I was a kid, my dad got a camcorder, and it had a button you would hit, and it would like flash the date and time if you had it set. And then most of us would click it on, leave it on for a couple minutes, and then you click it off. That way, you had a record of it. But it was at Leg Lake or something like that. And it's such a neat video. Like it's a time capsule. It's like August of like 89, I think was the date on it. And it just showed like these people that were excited. They had a stock hard body and they let their buddy borrowed a video camera and he kind of was video camera or videotaping. And then when they went to the cruise, he was, standing on the back of a truck or something. And he was like almost like a videographer. And when I watch this video, like it just gives me goosebumps, even though I didn't live there. I remember, even though I was young in 89, I mean, I wasn't old enough to like, go with friends and cruise around and or anything. But like we would go past like the McDonald's and the older kids were out there and stuff. And you just see like the youth of that time. It's such a time capsule. It's so intriguing to me.
Absolutely. It's amazing. It really.
Yeah, it's definitely an era. Now we're gonna get to talking about some of you guys have come here to hear Dennis's story, and I'm so excited here in a minute to talk about the Roadster Shop / Goodguys Giveaway. Again, you can see the truck behind Dennis. What I was intrigued with too, Dennis, when we became friends, beneath the OBS, you've got a 6.4, not Impala, my favorite.
Yeah.
What Lincoln Continental, right?
I
So
got
the
a
awesome
6.5.
Lincoln. Right. So you move out of California, right? And
Right.
you've got this bug that in you, like you've been bit. You're like, hey, I'm a car guy, I'm a truck guy, right? What was it that led you to like, did you see a bag Lincoln at some point? You're like, hey, I want to have one of those one day. Like, what's the story behind the car?
Well, I had a bag dually that was black, rag top, Nieper wheels. I mean, super cool. And then I had a Tahoe that was bagged, laid on 22s. And again, this is like 2003 to 5. I had these two vehicles. And I bought one to sell one. As a broke kid, I didn't have two at
Sure.
once. And then I heard about Lincolns, but I didn't really know about Lincolns. And I saw a black 64 and I was like, that is the most beautiful car I've ever seen. So, this is pre YouTube, pre all that stuff. This is, you barely have what you have available online. So I looked throughout the years, 61 to, 61 to 69. And my first one was a 62. Then I
Okay.
had a 63. And then I had this 64. I always wanted a 64, but I couldn't find one. That's the year I liked the most. But I was like, dude, if I could incorporate, the slammed, bagged, big wheels on a big old slab like that would just be killer. Like, I just think it would be phenomenal. And I bought that car in October of 2005, the car right behind me right here. And it was an 8-year project. We basically stripped it down to nothing, basically a rotisserie minus the rotisserie because we didn't have a rotisserie.
Sure.
I mean, it was a shell, and then we completely redid everything,
And
literally
this is the
everything.
way it looks currently there in the cul-de-sac, I think it is.
Yeah, I took that picture last week, so that's its current stage.
Yeah, and one of the cool things that you and I connected, like when you think back to that late '90s, early 2000s car, we'll call it truck scene. Something that was becoming real popular back then was the term fast bags, right? Because a lot of guys were transitioning from those quarter-inch paddle valves into like quicker electric valves and things like that.
SMCs, Parkers, Esco.
Yes, yeah, you know the
Yeah.
term. And what was neat is like you were telling me, yo, Jay, and my friend Tom, shout out to Tom Bennett in South Florida. He's got a 65 that he's had done for 20, give or take 20 years. And he is also on just the old school electric valves, right? But like we were talking about the reliability, right? I mean, this car has been done, and other than like we'll talk about the B pillar delete, a lot of it's been done now for a long time after the restoration.
Yeah, because I mean, I did all the mechanicals first. I stripped the car down to basically a shell. They're unibodies, so as far as I could go. And I started with the airbags, and this is before any kits were out. So I had to fabricate lower control arms. I had to fabricate a 2-link with basically a Z bar. It's called like a Z link, basically with Heim joints. Old school SMC valves. Dakota Digital, just a little screen. It tells me my bag pressure and my tank pressure. And literally, I think I test fitted and finished all that in mid to yeah, that's a great picture right there. In late 2008 is when I got it all together. And then, I did the tubs, and then I did the drive shaft tunnel. And again, this was all trial and error. There was no kits. There was no, hey guys, I run into this problem. What do I do? It was literally man versus machine. There was nowhere to go to, because at the time, 2005-ish to when I first started getting the ball rolling on the project, they really were kind of underground. People, like, they didn't really explode like they are now. I mean, even the wheels, I had Asante make the wheels, and I had to give them, the offsets and the bolt pattern. And I mean, literally everything, even the brakes, I had to have CPP custom make, all the bracketry. And I think now they probably make a kit for them. But again, this is, obviously you want to get all the mechanical done before you do paint and interior and everything else. But, pulling the 430 out, and then, having it done 30 over, and having a company called Eggy do pistons for me. And,
Yes.
they grounded a RV cam for it, still carbureted, the Edelbrock 1406, still mechanical fuel pump. And what I really like about the simplicity of everything is it's been done. I finished it in late 2013, and literally I probably put about 30,000 miles on it, and it has been literally trouble free. I mean, I know it's basic, but that 430 is great. It's a boat. Obviously, it's no powerhouse. It's got the acceleration of a motorhome, but it is just such a good, reliable car. It amazes me that, you could throw this together and hope for the best, and realize you more or less created this masterpiece. And on top of that, it's reliable, which who would have thought, right?
I know
So,
in Lincoln life gets such a bad rap sometimes. Oh, it's a Lincoln.
well, here's the thing, I stripped the car from nothing. And I just went over everything, and I was like, well, here we go. And I had a few little bugs to work out when I put it together, carb adjusting, timing, brakes. But literally, I mean, it has been just, for a carbureted vehicle with today's fuel
Sure.
and the mechanical fuel pump, not even the 3-port, which it should have.
Yes. Yep.
It's just ridiculous. I mean, 30,000 miles, and all I've really done is just change the oil and put tires on it. I mean, that's phenomenal.
And I appreciate you saying that, Dennis, because I've tried to reinforce to people, listen, I mean, you and I both know as car and truck guys, we understand that, there's always going to be guys out there that, go, hey, I'm going to put a Coyote. My buddy Tom did that in his F100. And, that's awesome. But like, I try to tell people too, like, especially non-car people that want to get one of the cars. I'm like, look, there's a lot. If you made a list and you said pros and cons, there's a lot of like, hey, I would love to do, right? If money was no object, whatever. But at the same time, I want people to know too, like my friend Paul always says, dude, a well-maintained engine, if you maintain it, it's gonna run. And that's what, like, about these cars, people think that they're unreliable, these engines, at least the 430s, the MEL 430s, but it's really contrary. I mean, sure, you're gonna have points if you go to Petronics. I saw you got the flamethrower, you've got all those little things, and that to me helps even future proof it more.
But yeah, the Pertronics is been great. Again, it doesn't vapor lock or anything. The Edelbrock carb. I mean, I feel like less is more with these vehicles. When I built this car, there was no LS swaps. I don't even think Coyotes were out yet. I think the only LS of then was like an LS6 out of a CTSV, or an LS1 or an LS2. I mean, and again, these were brand new engines at the time. And really, hindsight, I love the 430, and I wouldn't change it. I know people are kind of like, oh, LS so much reliable and everything, but for me, 30,000 miles on a project that's been done since 2013, it's tried and true. And at the end of the day, it's still a 6,000 pound, whatever, 5,000 pound boat. So, I think it has like 289 rear gears in it. I mean, so the thing's just a freeway flyer. I mean, it just jams.
Yeah,
But I mean,
it's torquey and they get the job done.
exactly. I mean, you're not gonna, you're gonna stop at every other gas station, but it's worth it to me.
Yeah. Now, a couple things I want to point out. If you're watching this on YouTube, you're going to see the visuals here. When we talk about that iconic, called the 2000 era truck scene, right? And we talk about kind of the fast bags and electric valves in that era. You mentioned the A word, Asante. I always want to say Ashante. Not
Santi wheels, yeah.
Yeah, Asante. Thank you. Like, that's also almost like that 2000-ish era. And I thought it's neat because, listen, someone may look at this 64, Dennis, and go, well, I would rather have a Detroit wheel or a Colorado, whatever. I like that you stuck with something that you liked, and this may not be everybody's preference. I get it, but also, as much as I love Lincolns, the Lincoln scene has fallen a lot into very similar things. Now, people could argue and go, "Well, Jay, you got the Colorado custom Lincoln wheels, and you weren't the first to get them." Yeah, I totally get that. But we kind of joke and call it a slab starter kit. Guys go, "Hey, I'm going to do a smoothie. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that." But to me, Dennis, the point that I'm trying to make is that you kind of have that unique fingerprint that you left on the 64.
Yeah, I mean, bottom line, I was going with the timeless look. Obviously black on black on a Lincoln is, stereotypical as it gets, but I just think it looks amazing.
Sure.
I mean, a Lincoln in any color, just the body lines of the cars, I mean, in general is just, they're just beautiful. Any color is gorgeous. Even like the fact they have like a factory, like a rose gold. You probably even know what the color is called, but I don't. But it just looks beautiful. Even black with the red. But yeah, I mean, I had those wheels made by Asanti. They're 22 by 9s in the front, 22 by 11s in the rear. And it's a 305, 25, 22 in the rear and a 265, 30, 22 in the front. And you know what? I've had them for a long time. In this moving forward, I'm like, you know what? I really like the Raceline Manhattans. I think they're a beautiful wheel, but I don't know, I just feel like there's a lot of them out there. There's
Yeah,
multiple Lincolns, multiple Cadillacs, but I mean that would be my second go-to. I still have my factory white walls and tires, which they're probably uh ash by now. They're 200
sure.
years old. I
But
still
that's
have
cool that
them.
you kept them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I still kept my factory wheels, and I still kept. I don't know. They actually fit over my brakes too, barely, but they do. The
That's
13,
that's
just the
great.
13s in the front and in the rear. But yeah, I dig the wheels. Eventually, maybe one day I'll change it. It's been done for a long time now, so it's only really I would notice it. Showing its signs of age and things like that. On your car, everything, but someone else wouldn't.
Yeah,
Think twice. So there's some things I would like to do, not more or less change, but to, general maintenance, things like that. I don't know how all those valves has lasted as long as they have. The SMC 3/8 valves from, 18 years ago are still in there just trucking along. But
Fender
it
Bender
worked.
International or wherever whoever you called to order them. Yeah, the good old days.
Yeah, I think I got, I don't even know if they came from, you know, AIM Industries. Who knows,
Sure. Yep. Now
it's
I got to
crazy.
ask you this, and you're a perfect person to ask this question, right? Because there's a misconception. Us many truckers have been running low pro tires since the 14s and 15s, right? I mean, even the wire wheel era, the old school Cali era, that's still huge, right? But there's this misconception, and I'm not going to always say it's the older crowd, but they'll look at a car like this and go, "Oh, it's got rubber bands, you can't drive it, this and that," right? So you reinforced, give or take, you put 30K on this car, right? You got factory engine that you blown apart, you got eggy parts in it, boom, thing is rock solid. Have you ever had knock on wood, have you ever had a tire issue at all running the low pro tires?
I mean, I got a 25 series tire in the rear and a 30 in the front. Obviously I made sure that the wheels and tires were going to be enough for this car as far as load rating. Never had an issue. I replaced the tires because they were just getting old. Like the
Sure.
tread depth was still there. It's just they were approaching age, so I replaced them. But as far as anything on the tires or the air ride, not one issue. And
Yeah, and I had a feeling you were going to say that. I didn't know the answer, but I want people to know that if you get a good tire. Now, listen, I in my younger days, especially, I didn't realize I would years ago. I was cheaping out buying these quote 22-inch tires. And buddy's like, "Oh man, I know a guy," and I was like, "Why have I heard these stories? I know a guy." And it was like, "Oh, he's got these Lionheart tires and this and that." Well, little did I know they were like the Chinese knockoff tires, and they did not last. Right?
right.
Nothing against Chinese knockoff stuff, but we all kind of joke and say, "Hey, that's this stuff won't last." But it's intriguing to me because I really truly believe, like, if you got if you check your tire pressure and you've got a tire on there, even if it's low pro, some people think, "Oh, you're gonna put a pothole, this and that." Yeah, listen, things could happen, but that's great to hear, man. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and again, and a lot of times, you hear the same story with the air ride too. But the good thing, this car versus like a truck is the weight is dispersed very, and obviously it's heavier in the front, but it's not like a truck where it's just a bed and it's real light in the rear. So I mean, it rides even with those tires ridiculous. I mean, it rides like stock. I mean, I almost want you to take a ride and be like, this, yes, this is bag. Like, it's just crazy to think that, you just this homemade kit you threw together how many some odd years ago is still running, riding with no issues whatsoever. And literally, again, back to what I said about the engine, I wouldn't change it. It's been good for this long and I've never hadn't had any issues.
Yep.
So maybe eventually, I think, the valves are probably on borrowed time, but I think maybe I'll switch over to like an AccuAir or something eventually if I'm like, it's time.
Yeah, you're
But
talking about the air valve. He was talking about the air valves for anybody listening, not the valves like in the engine.
yeah, I'm sorry, I kind of I'm leaning towards the air ride part.
Yeah.
But yeah, when when I do decide to redo it when something fails, I'm assuming it's probably the weak link is going to be probably those valves because they're so old, and that's probably the only thing I would change. But as far as you get a lot of hate also on how does it ride, and I mean it rides just amazing. So.
Yeah, in the early 2000s, I got a chance to ride. We had a buddy Chris in our severed Florida chapter, and he got into Corvettes and stuff, but he had a full size, and he did a horse trading with a guy up in Mississippi, and it was a extended cab OBS. I don't know, 92, 93. And I think it was one of the first bagged vehicles I can remember. Well, I think it was the first full size bagged vehicle I rode in, and I could not believe. And here was the crazy thing, because we had a buddy that he didn't always put shocks on the front of like the big trucks because he goes, well, the turning radius, this and that.
That's exactly the turning radius.
And that thing rode so good. And I'm glad you brought that up, because if anybody happens to hear this on Lincoln Attic podcast as well, there's a misconception out there when people see these, and I'm working on a video that I want to do to talk about lowering Lincolns that will tie into some of the hate I hate to use that word, but some of the hate that's out there. And you'll have people that'll be like, oh, it must ride like crap. And it's like, you would be surprised. They ride really good.
I mean, you got to think, 25 series tires. I mean, that's ridiculous as it gets.
Yeah.
And it's literally like I have the stock tires on there. But again, a lot of it is geometry with your suspension, what PSI you're at ride height, where you placed your shock. So it's not like you throw it together and hope for the best. I mean, you have to know what you're doing and put it all together first.
Dial it in. Yep.
Exactly. You can't be like, oh, this shock will work and this should be fine. I mean, you have to have a plan and execute it. So
yeah, my buddy Jimmy at Jimmy's Running Customs, and I know Max Fish and Bio Customs and some of these guys that really know their stuff, they could discuss it in length. But my buddy Jimmy, he really, and I think Devious as well, Devious Customs, where my kit came from, is there's some people that are firm believers in, like, you got I always want to call them a single bellow bag, but Jeff corrected me one day. He goes, well, it's not a single bellow, it's a sleeve. Or maybe I said sleeve, and he goes single bellow. But to your point, the guys that know the stuff in and out, there's guys that can look at it and go, well, hey, and to your point, like, you drive it and you go, wow, does it ride right? A lot of guys have kind of got them dialed in now. And that's what I like about your car, though. You said it, like, you've had it pre this explosion, if you will, of Lincoln era that we've seen in the last 10, 15 years. So I think that's really awesome that the car, knock on wood, has done you so well on the engine, drivetrain side, as well as the wheels and tires, air suspension, all that is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, literally, I literally have not one gripe other than, again, getting it together, breaking it in, adjust proportion valve, little things, tweaks, which any build's going to be. But I will say, Devious, I'm not big on social media or anything. I'm kind of not underground. I'm just busy and don't really have much time for it. But when I got the car, the only person that was really into Lincolns was Adam from Mob Steel.
Yes.
He's like, as much information as I know, which isn't that much, is he's kind of like the originator for the Lincolns.
I think I believe that.
Yeah, and then there's Murray's Customs. Devious is really big. There's a lot of shops, but I think Adam is really like kind of the OG to really put Lincolns on the map. And more power to him. He took off with his Detroit steel wheels and crushing it. So you always want to see man do good. So that's awesome. I like that.
Yeah, and I'm thankful. I want to give a shout out to Emma at Mob Steel / Detroit Steel Wheel Co. Like, I kind of forged a relationship with her, and she helped me get Adam Janai on the Lincoln Attic podcast in the past. And it was really important to me because when I started Googling in the early 2000s, and I kept landing there, and the brand, and I even talked to Emma about this a little bit, the brand was a little bit more brash back then, because we were younger. And he had these shirts that, like, if you get locked up, don't call me, and like some cool stuff, right? And it's neat when you see some of the videos that they've done, and he talked about it on Lincoln podcast. Like, you talk about a motivator, you talk about an inspirational guy that goes and does talks in front of like credit unions and employee all hands meetings and stuff. It's that guy, and it's cool to see how he's morphed over the course of time. I mean, I never knew him personally, so I'm not saying he was ever a bad guy, but he was doing stuff for Albert Hainsworth and these NFL guys doing these big builds. And it's really neat to see guys like that, those what we would refer to as a blue collar guy, really make it.
Yeah. I mean, when I first called him, I believe his wife answered the phone, and, he might be available, he might not be. And they were just a little, mom and pop shop. And, he's really grown this empire, and he's done very well. And he's still extremely relevant in the Lincoln communities. Definitely hats off to him. I'd say he's definitely the OG of, you know, when Lincoln's first started coming together.
But yeah, and I'll tip my cap to Emma. I know in the social media era, she's really helped to bring a lot of limelight to them for the hard work that, to your point, that they were already doing. So that's great. I want to talk about one more thing on the Lincoln. So you did, I believe, in the last year or so, give or take, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the pillar delete. So I want people
Yes.
to know that Pat, who Dennis went through, Pat, I've had him on the Lincoln podcast. If you want to do a pillar delete, which is that pillar right between those two front, the front and rear door, you want to get with Pat Tian up in Canada. But talk to us a little bit about the motivation and how that went, how that came together.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. So, I've always been into hot rods and things like that. But, one of my favorite cars is a 55 Chevy. And, they have the Bel Air, and they have the sports, or I'm sorry, they have the hard top, or they have the 210. And the hard top being no post. And it just looks awesome. It looks killer. I love it. And ever since I got the car, I was like, this is the only thing cosmetically that I don't like. And I know the doors, don't have the post when you open it, but there's still that post, when obviously the doors are open. So I'm like, I saw a couple guys talking about it, doing it, but really, I think, again, the OG of doing that was Pat Tehan. And I was kind of at a crossroads because I got everything I needed. I actually acquired a 65 convertible that was in horrible shape, but I was able to get windows, the caps, stainless. I mean, I basically just stripped the whole car. It was just cancered out, but it had a lot of good parts. So that's where I got all my parts. But I came at a crossroads of not having the B-pillar cap rubbers. I think they made it from 61 to 63. So I got a hold of Pat, and he literally like 3D printed me some in like 2 days from Canada and had them shipped. And they came out killer. But, windows, I took the rear windows out of a 65. I did the caps off that 65 convertible I acquired. Let's see, I got the weather strip from, I think, Steel. And everything else, really, I followed basically Pat's recipe, because he was, the auto drop and all that. He's really the creator of making all this work. It's one thing just to pull the B pillar off, but to actually make everything function and work, he really is the guy behind the full function B pillar delete. So hats off to him for sure.
And what's really cool, Dennis, is if you think about the 60-year-old technology, it still blows my mind that people and corporations were able to create a car like this, or machine stuff, or these cars have. There's a company was called Budd, Budd. They have Budd panels. They made a lot of the body panels for Ford. Like, they did all that without computers, right? With the limit switches, the knife switches, and things like that. Cashman and my buddy Blair over here, and Chris Dunn and his crew at Lincoln Land, like, they're experts with all that. But it's neat to me to take the older tech, or the older vehicle with the newer technology that Pat has kind of been able to spearhead. And to your point, like, folks, if you're watching on YouTube, what Dennis is kind of talking about is you can take this pillar out, but you're left with this like little blank spot. And on a convertible, you'd have this nice stainless piece, or on my 65 red convertible, they're red, believe it or not. But to your point, is you got someone like Pat that knows what people needs. He's figured out the kits with a little, I forget what they call them. It's not called, I always want to say amoeba, but I know that's like the brain eating thing. It's not that. But those little micro switches, or whatever they call them, But he's
Yes.
kind of,
Ah, gosh, I know what
yeah,
you're
he's
talking
got it figured
about.
out so that when you push that button in, just like the factory cars, the factory car has a knife switch. When you push the
Auto
button
drop.
in, yeah, and you go to open the door, right? That window drops 3 to 4 inches ish, and when it drops on the convertibles, that allows for, if you look at this roof line right here, if it was if this was a convertible car and the top, let's say this was the top up, that the top of the window will get hung up on that weather strip, right? So I don't want to go into the whole thing of that, reportedly they made 4 of these in 61, so on and so forth. There's a lot of bone and contention on that, but bottom line is we know that Lincoln Mercury, or they went with the B pillar, okay, 61 all the way up. So to me, this is one of my favorite mods, and I agree with you, man. This is so cool, dude.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little intimidating doing it after it's been painted and done for so long. And, one little error, you scratch it, you don't do it right, you put a, hole in the roof or whatever. But just be patient, take your time, again, do your homework, have everything, acquire all your parts first. And a big thing too, I forgot to mention, is the window tracks. You need the window tracks out of a convertible as well.
As
And,
long as I've been
there's no,
around Lincolns and I love these cars, my buddy Tony's going to show me how to take all that stuff out, because of the Lincoln forum years ago, they talked about the scissor of death, right? And there's a
but
thing
yeah,
that, and it's like Tony always says, he goes, "Yo, Jay," he goes, "we're going to take it out and we're going to put it on the vise." And I was like, I get it, but I'm also the worst when it comes working inside doors. I know you're like a mechanic, and we'll talk some more about that, but like even when I had my 79 C30, like I had to change just the window track in there. And it's like you have to get that little roller deal on the, and dude, my OCD is like I'm not made to work inside doors, dude. I can't do it. So it's really neat that you did it and
I don't.
spearheaded that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, when I bought the car, again, I rebuilt all the window motors. The rear doors wouldn't open for some reason. I forget. I think
Yes.
something was
Yeah, and
frozen
they
in
usually
there.
have like the latch. It is so crazy because one of mine was the same. My friend Tony recently spent 2 hours on a car trying to get the rear latch open, and you would think, well, okay, something's wrong in there, but it's I think it's the grease and everything. And what we've done over the course of time is like take WD-40 and just keep spraying and keep working it, and eventually it'll just open. Like, what was I just doing the last 2 hours? It's crazy how they get hung up.
Yeah. Both my rear doors wouldn't open when I bought the car. I was like, okay, it's like, did Bo and Luke weld them shut? Like, what's going on here? Like, did I
Just a
buy a
girl
car?
boy.
Yeah, what is going on here? But yeah, just it seems like all the quirks these cars have, like every car has that same quirk, right? It's like, oh, my Lincoln does this, oh, my Lincoln does that. And it's the main things, over time, the window switches, which is a big one for them. I had to rebuild all my window motors. My Speaking of, you were talking about in that C30 in the window track, my little rollers were frozen. Those little nylon rollers.
Yeah.
So I just pulled them off and I just soaked them in PB Blaster and just slowly worked them without breaking them, and they all still work. So,
Yeah,
but
shout
yeah,
out to
all
John
the little
Cashman.
quirks.
Yeah, shout out to John Cashman, the Lincoln man. Been working on these cars 42, 43 years. Great guy. He was on Jay Leno's Garage, and he'll always talk about the peanut butter, is what he calls it. Because if you think about, the grease that's in there, these cars now, a 64 is, 60 years old, right? Or, all of those 60s Lincolns are on the verge of 60 years old plus. Like sometimes we just think, oh, it's a car, it's just going to work. And it's like, well, the grease and all that stuff. And it just works wonders when people blow it apart, to your point, clean it, and you put some fresh grease in there. I mean, hell, it might last another 70 years now.
It still works. I mean, my all my motors are original. I just rebuilt them when I had it out. I just took them apart, cleaned up the brushes, put it back to, because back then there really was no. I know Dorman has a like a conversion type kit now, but back then there wasn't anything. In window switches, I mean, I would, again, there was Craigslist. My window switches, they were all good except for I think three. So, I was on Craigslist. Hey, will you ship? Just that was my only avenue. This wasn't, pre Facebook Marketplace, pre all this. No one made a windshield for it. I had to drive to God knows where, put a half inflated air mattress in the back of my truck to carry this windshield, 100 some odd miles home, and pray to God that when the guy was putting it in didn't break it. So I mean, a lot of it too is just the times and the experience and just the the adventures you get to go on, that right there is priceless.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally concur.
Yeah.
I'm going to share something here. We could talk about some cool photos you sent me of the Lincoln, and I'm going to jump back over here. But what I want to do first is I want to just take a quick, I'll call it station identification for OLP on Rise Media, our title sponsor, Scraping the Coast. If you've never been, please, everyone, check out Scraping with an IN, thecoast.com. Of course, this is June 20th through the 25th in Biloxi. One of our key partners, the Freaking Weekend Show, that is 3 months later, literally at Harrah's Gulf Coast, which is very, very close to where Scraping takes place. So if you guys get a chance, anyone out there that's listening to this and you want to go to two amazing shows, Scraping the Coast, June, the Freaking Weekend in September, both in Biloxi. What I think is so cool is when you went to, this will kind of transition us, some of the folks that want to hear the story on the OBS, you got a chance to meet the guy that owns this 62, not convertible, but Roadster. And you sent me a couple photos. These are the few that I
Yes.
had. Talk about going to, because this is the same motor speedway where Gas Monkey debuted Crew Cut years ago for the TV show. They were at the same facility.
Right.
I think it was. And you got a chance to meet the gentleman with the Roadster. Was it? This is the Roadster one, right?
Yeah. I mean, that car is unreal. I mean, it's just, Coyote motor, 10 speed, supercharged. I mean, I can go into details about how the body lines go. He had to bubble the hood up a little bit, and then it flows into the back. The trunk is on air actuators. To my knowledge, I believe so. But it's just, the guy is super, super cool. I mean, the cars, like heated, cooled seats. I mean, just out of this world. And one thing he did, which was really cool, is the company is called Altered Images, I believe, who did it, who did the resto on it. And on, the 61 to 63s, they have that little circle around the taillights. Like, it's not like the fours and where it's flat. So what he did is he airbrushed his company name underneath that. So it's very, very, very faint. But if you look at the bumper, he sprayed it reverse. So when you look in the bumper, you could see his company name. But it's,
well, I think I heard of it. Yeah.
But it's very, like, you really have to look for it or someone has to tell you. But I was like, that is just awesome. Like, it's so cool. It's not like in your face. You have to look for it. It's like those little subtle things are really where it's at. But yeah, he was at the speedway. I'm like, dude, you're making me look bad, bro. This car is pretty insane.
Yeah, you're like, man, this is like
But no,
over the
top. You had the Yin Yang twins on display there at Goodguys Fort Worth. But super cool dude, awesome car. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, and for vicinity of where do you live, like to get to that speedway, I mean, it's like an hour. Like, what do you like? How far are you from there?
I would say if I left right now, it'd be 20 minutes.
Okay, yeah. So it's kind of cool to kind of place kind of where you're at. Now, I got to ask you this. This is probably maybe the best transition that we could give in this situation, right? So there's kind of an Easter egg in this photo, right? There's a shop that's parked in the stone's throw. Or I don't throw stones, so maybe I'll, say tennis ball throw, right? There's a white truck over there. You know that truck, right?
I think I've seen it around.
Oh, let me ask you this. This show was, are we saying, I'm trying to remember if this was like 2022, 2023? What?
This is September 2022.
2022. Now, okay, so what I want to kind of talk about, because dude, this Lincoln is so awesome. A lot of folks want to know the story on the OBS. Now, I'm going to kind of ask you if you want to start towards the beginning, but I wanted to draw the line in the sand. Was this the show where you took an award that we're going to talk about?
No, this photo was taken after I had the truck for probably a year or so. I've had the truck for quite some time at this point.
Okay, cool. That's what I wanted people to know, because if folks are watching this on YouTube, the Roadster Shop is parked here and the OBS truck, so you got Dennis's 64 sedan and you got the OBS truck, which is super cool. Now, again, I was so intrigued by the story. Like I just was blown away. Wherever you feel like starting, but man, like we just got to share this story with everyone, man. It's so neat. How did you end up like Did you set out to win this truck? Did you hear about it and say, I'm going for it? Like, what was the whole start off kickoff point?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. So it all starts with, I guess, the morning of. It was a Saturday morning, and Good Guys is Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I didn't go Friday, and I honestly wasn't gonna go. It was September 2022 to that event. I got little kids. I had stuff going on. I was gonna just sit this one out, maybe go Sunday
With your Lincoln.
with the Lincoln, correct. So my buddy's like, let's go. We should go. All right, let's go. So I go and hang out, walk around, and I get one of those yellow stickers on my headlight at Good Guys. It's like an award winner. I was like, oh wow, this is awesome. And so I said, okay, well, great. I got to come back for award ceremony tomorrow and see what I won. So even better, right? So go back the next day, hang out, look at all the awesome cars, spend time with my buddies, just epic time as usual at a Good Guys event. And I won the award for the solo, is what they call it. Just the category that they win. So anyway, I'll kind of rewind a little bit. Anybody who goes to a Good Guys show and enters their vehicle gets a ticket to win whatever. Every year they give away a vehicle. So anybody who brings their vehicle is eligible to win the truck. It just so happened that I wasn't going to show up. I won the award with the Lincoln, and I had my special little, Willy Wonka golden ticket. And so anybody who's there on Sunday with their vehicle, and if they pull your card, you're eligible to win the truck. So,
and that was
Lincoln,
only out of the people. That was only out of, like, let's say you have 10,000 people there. Well, let's say 200 people, are going to be at the award ceremony. It was only the people. So, like, you would have had to get that little thing on your car, which you did. And then you would have to be at the ceremony the next day, right?
Yes. You didn't necessarily, you didn't have to win an award. Okay. That was just kind of like that was the reason I went back the next day.
I see. But you had to be there Sunday.
So anybody can go with the car. You have to be there Sunday after the awards. You got your best of show, your solo, best wheels, best interior, best engine. They do all that, and everybody waits. They put everybody's ticket in a basically a big metal drum, and they shake it, and then they pull your card. So basically anyone is it's game for anybody. It's not singled out to anybody. I mean, anybody's fair game as long as you're there Sunday present with your vehicle.
Got it.
So, it's funny. I put the ticket in last minute, and they shake it, and my wife sees the ticket and she knows right away it's my ticket. And I just see her put her head down, and I was like, what? She goes, that's your ticket. They're going to call your name. I'm like, what do you mean? Because we're like 3 rows back.
Oh, Ashley.
And she goes, yeah. She goes, because your son ripped the corner off this morning, and that ticket's got the corner missing. And I was like, no way. She goes, yes, they're going to call your name. And I was like, that's crazy. And it ended up calling my name in the ticket.
Right. So that then gave you, one thing I want to point out too is we're talking like what year, like this was 2021, 2022. I can't remember.
This is September of 2022.
September of 2022.
Yeah. So I have 9 months to go before the giveaway. So we're, in the middle of the season.
Right. And so was it the show season of 2022? Like all the good guys, because I know we're going to get to this point, but like you were at the one event. So right. When they pulled your name, now they go, hey, did they give you a physical key?
No. See, and that's the thing. I was like, oh, cool. Like I want a truck. I was really oblivious because I didn't know what was going on because I didn't even plan on going to the show.
That's why this is so cool.
I go every year. Even Del Mar when I was in California, it's always been a huge Good Guys. It just you get kids. Like I'm gonna sit this one out. There's 2 a year here in Texas. So I was like, oh, I'll get them one in the next few months. But yeah, so I thought you just win the truck right there, and I was like, sweet. Like I kind of like perplexed. Like, is this happening right now? And then they're like, wait, hold on. There's more to this. And I'm like, oh, okay, now what? And they're like, okay, so there's, I think 16 or 18 shows a year. So everybody from every show, they get their golden ticket. And at the last show in Ohio, you're eligible to win the truck. That's where you get your key. So, I'm a hardcore OBS guy, love the truck. And I'm just can't even fathom that this might be my truck one day. And just to have the anticipation, that carrot in front of your face for 9 months. Well, I mean, especially being just that I'm just in love with this vehicle so
Yeah, so you're
much.
talking
It's
like
just,
May of June for the following year.
yeah, it was. So I got it was September 2022, and the giveaway date was in July of 2023.
Got it. Okay. Yep, that makes
So
sense.
all
Okay.
the other guys had to line up to get, all their tickets. I think it was like 16 or 18 people. I think it's like 16 shows, and like two people online can win.
Right, there
There
were
was like some,
probably, like, the whole no purchase necessary. I was trying to think, like, there were maybe, like, in the fine print, it was, like, maybe you could submit your name on Roadster Shop website, because I want people to know
yes.
too, Roadster Shop, however, like, Ronnie, huge shout out to Ronnie at C10 Talk, right? Ronnie, over the course of time, had good guys on when we're all getting older. So when it got to the point that, like, the 88 to 98s, that's like that was like a big gap, a big step, right? These guys could come in now at some of these events. So to me, I always kind of thought like Roadster Shop also teaming up with them, it was helping bring the guys of like our age into those events, because for a long time, I mean, no offense to good guys, it's all car people. But there's also a lot of the older hot rod guys, so they're trying to get us involved, I would assume.
Yeah, I love all hot rods regardless, no matter what. Classic hot rod, anything, old or awesome car related. Again, I mean, there's only so many 32 Fords, 40 Fords, 55, try five Chevys. But, now I'm at the age where now it's the new classics, right? And, I love C10s, but I've always gravitated to OBSs because it's my
That was
era.
our era, yeah.
I'm an OBS era kid. But yeah, this was the introduction to say, okay, now let's, the square body ended at 87. Let's branch on the 88 to 98, because now, the 88 to 98 is 25 years old. So now we hit our, antique classic vehicle age and move on. This really was the introduction to bringing the, I guess, younger crowd into Good Guys.
Yeah, and for those that
So
don't know, if you think about it with good guys, right? This hot rod association, it maybe not the best explanation, but like if you think about like Sam's Club or BJ's or Costco, right? They're built on like a subscription type base, right? I think from what I understand, that's how they make the majority of their money. They sell in bulk. If you think about good guys, I think I've been in it before too. It's like you pay that yearly subscription, you can get some discounts with different companies, things like that. But I think for most of the Good Guys show, you have to be part of the Good Guys Hot Rod Association to be able to register, I believe. I could be wrong.
I could be wrong as well. I think it was like fair game to anybody who, I don't think you have to be a member. I think
Okay.
as long as you purchase a ticket for your vehicle to get in. I was a member prior. And you just it's like I think it's like $130 a year or something. You get, again, subscription based, you get like a magazine
Yeah.
every other month or something like that,
Yeah.
and you get your card, you
Perks
get,
and stuff.
you get your discount on merch, things like that. So I mean, and it's amazing event. It really, it always has been.
Yep. So
But
I know
yeah,
people were going, "Yo, ODB, stop talking. Let Dennis tell the rest of the story." So you go to this event that you were like, eh. You ended up
right.
going because you
Well, I
said, "Hey, you're
wasn't
gonna."
like, I just had kid stuff going on,
Right.
and I was like, oh
Yeah. I
yeah,
don't want to discount the show.
no,
And they
no,
literally, yeah, we're family guys, right? So they give you
exactly, yeah.
they say, hey, here's this thing you need to be. So my understanding, so kind of pick up from there. Like now, there's a line in the sand that next July you have a chance. Do you start to like formulate in your mind, like, okay, well, we're gonna take the time off and go?
Dude, I mean, like, I couldn't even, literally like every 2 hours of the day, if not more, I'm like thinking like this could be my truck. I mean, I love this truck. I mean, I know it's just material, but I mean, how awesome could this be? Total SoCal, these early 2000s builds, someone who's from that era, like crazy. Like who would have thought, but I'm all about, fair game. Whoever wins it, more power to him. But whoever gets it, this is an epic truck. But obviously I'm in love with the truck and want it, right? So I guess now we can fast forward to July, which is the show in Ohio, which is the giveaway. So I fly out to Ohio with my wife and kids and my best friend, my buddy who painted my Lincoln and helped me do it years ago. He flies out there, so we hang out at the show for a couple days, and heart's racing. It's getting closer and closer and closer. We're in the little I call it like an airplane hangar there at the pavilion in Ohio, at the Ohio Convention Center in Columbus, where Good Guys is final show is at the end of the year. So, they line everybody up by what show basically you won at. So okay, you were the winner at this first show. We're gonna line everybody up, everybody up, everybody up, right? So, and then after they line everybody up, there's a girl named Sadie, super sweet girl. She's been involved with Good Guys for a long time. She basically has this little bag, and every person grabs a key. And after that, they do a little speech, and it's like, okay, let's see which key's going to start the truck.
And you're like in an auditorium. Are there people like up in
Yeah,
this?
like kind of like an airplane hangar auditorium, what do you call it, type seating, like stadium type seating. So, and there's, I don't know, 1,000 people in there. I have no idea. There's a lot of people. So we're all sitting there. We're all, just waiting to go. So, here we go. First time.
And I don't know if you could
First
see
guy
that.
goes.
This might be fast forwarding too far, but this is something you sent me, give or take, right after. This is probably right after, but I'm going to keep it here so that we'll start it once we get to that point.
So there's 18 people, and then I forget which one. I think I was number 12. So I grabbed key number 12. So keys 1 through 11 didn't start the truck. And I looked at the key when they first gave it to me, and I'm standing the guys next to me. I'm like, this isn't going to work. You see like an old school GM key. They usually have like a certain look to them. I was like, I don't think this is going to work. I'm like, oh, man, I don't know. And I'm like, I kind of doubt myself. I look at my wife in the stands, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm not very optimistic with the way this key's shaped. But again, that's me overthinking like crazy, right? This thing's been mustering in my head for 9 months. And so number 11 goes, and I'm like, okay, number 12, let's see what happens. And I put the key in and sit down, and I turn it, and I see the gauges cycle, and I'm like, no way. This thing's going to start. I'm pretty sure it's going to start. And I started it, and I was like, to this day, to the second, I still get butterflies, goosebumps. I can't believe it. It's I'm dumb. I can't even describe in words how it felt. And you want to know, I'm going to rewind a little bit, which is kind of crazy. Going back to me from when I was a kid, I was there at Cal Truck Jam when Heather and Joey won the MIC dually.
August.
So yes. So isn't it kind of crazy how that kind of all flowed? But yes, I mean, I was a kid. There's no way I could have gotten that truck then, but we can all dream, right? But yeah, I mean, it just the biggest blessing known to man. I mean, I love the truck, the guys at Roadster Shop. So anyway, I take possession of the truck, and everybody's tired. It's a 3-day event for everybody. Everybody's tired. Everybody's ready to go home.
Real quick, I got to ask you this, though. I got to stop you. I know people are like, don't stop them. Without giving any too much detail, they took you in, because you told me this, right? And I wanted people to hear this. They took you into a room, right? Because people always want to know, like, well, do they just go, well, here you go, man, see you later, and they run out of there because they're like, we don't want to touch it? They quickly took you into a room and sat you down, though. Do you mind just sharing a little bit of that? Because that was intriguing to me. How you gave them a little bit of as Bubba would say, you worked them a little bit.
Well, I mean, what happened is, I'm like, okay, well, now what? Like, everyone's ready to go home, is tired, let's go in this room, let's get this paperwork signed, let's get your keys, let's get, your insurance settled up. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, would you mind driving it home? And I'm like, I'm not driving this thing home 1,100 miles. It's got, this thing is like, it's got a white chassis. It's, built by Roadster Shop. No, I'm not trying. No, you're out of your mind. Like, this is, even though I didn't build it, I know what it took to do. And it's like, this is a master art piece. So my buddy who came who came out to the show to, if I potentially wanted it, even if I didn't, we got to hang out, right? So he said, all right, well, we're going to road trip it back to Texas, 1,100 miles. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I don't want, like, no. So anyway, I don't know anything. I don't know how the air ride works. Like, what am I, it's an AccuAir, but like, what's the ride height? What quirks does it have? Can I do full turning? Little things that every custom vehicle has, right?
Yeah.
Where's a kill switch? Where's the, anything? Anyway, so yeah, I get in the room and I get my keys and I get my temporary insurance, and they asked me if I document the trip home. I said, absolutely. Again, and back to what I said earlier, I'm not much of a social media guy just because how busy I am. My buddy's like, yeah, I'll document it. I'll film it. So the first, this is like 6 o'clock on a Sunday when I won the truck. It's the time I left the show. So we get like 2 hours out, And we find this hotel in Cincinnati that was like, I swear it was haunted. It was crazy, but they had gated parking. So everywhere I went, I'm like, I needs to be safe and I need to be parked here. Like I called every hotel, like, look, I need to be in a safe spot. My room needs to look at the truck. Like I was super overprotective, but who wouldn't be, right? I mean, if I didn't care, then I wouldn't be like, oh, I'll just go to a red roof and
A
park in the
night
back.
stand.
Yeah, exactly. So we road tripped it home. We went to the Corvette Museum. We went through Tennessee in like the worst weather ever.
Yeah, and it was in
Dude,
July.
dude, we got in Tennessee off the 40. The roads are like Lightning McQueen paved them, dude. It was like a whoop section. I mean, seriously, dude, it was just mud and dirt. I mean, the truck was hammered when I got it home. I mean, the billet wheels looked like they were, they looked like they were raw. It was bad, but it was such an epic journey. The truck did phenomenal. I mean, the journey alone with my buddy coming back and my family being there and everything coming together was so special that it's a moment that makes your heart come out of your chest. I really don't know how any else way I can put it. You know what I'm saying? It's just unreal.
Yeah, I agree. And what I want to do is I'm going to show a couple of things here. Number one, I want to give a huge shout out. I don't know the guys. I know that you forged a great relationship with them. I want to give a shout out to Roadster Shop because they have oil and whiskey. So they have a very successful podcast. Everything they've done, I think, to help push the truck scene forward is just amazing. Different, it's a whole nother level, which is cool. But I also want to play, I hinted at this a second ago, so I didn't want to forget. This was a video that you had shared with
Yeah,
me.
this is from my wife's camera phone.
Yeah, so it's about 44 seconds, and this must have been right after. Was this right when you started it?
Yeah, so they couldn't hear it start. So they just heard, balloons and everything. So like, oh, I guess, must
Right,
have won the
because
truck.
yeah, some of the folks probably saw at the very top they had the balloons that were color coordinated to it. So when number 12, give or take, when you started, basically that means the 4 or 6 guys, ladies, whatever behind you, boom, they're out. You guys jump for joy like you just won, like a WWE match, the championship. And there was that, okay. But I also wanted you to share because this made me laugh when you talked about you had shared with me a detail when you went in the room. Did they ask you, do you want to take the truck or do you want to take something else?
Yes. Okay, now I know what you're talking about. Yes, so and this goes to anybody. I mean, win the truck or not. This was my ultimate decision. I think everybody goes. So basically, if you don't want the truck, you could take a cash prize, and the cash prize was 40,000. And I was like, thanks, but I got to take this truck. I'm sorry.
But you did
I'll let
joke
you.
with them at the beginning. They were like, do you want the money? And you're like, I'll take the money.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm always messing with people. Yeah. I mess with people so much I can't even keep track. But yeah.
That's why we
Yeah.
get
And this
along so
guy's
good.
looked at me like, yeah.
For a
So I'm
split
like,
second,
oh,
some of
yeah,
those guys were
absolutely.
like, yes.
Yeah.
And
I
then you were
want, I
like,
want my Kellogg cereal check so I can just carry it out.
yep.
So
Well, you better
no,
off Dead fans out there. Remember the kid? He would just have the little comb. I wish I had my comb right here, the little switchblade comb. And he's like, I want my $2. You're like, nah, I'll take the truck.
yeah, no, I'm good. I'll definitely take the truck, but thank you. But some people who aren't, car people or truck people, because again, it's fair game to anybody who goes to Good Guys, right?
Yeah.
Some people the truck might not, it might not be your flavor, it might not be something you like, it might not mean anything to you, but the truck holds, is a special place in my heart because of just the scene I grew up in, the people who built it. You know, you got Jeremy, Phil, uh, all the guys at Good Guys. I'm sorry, at Roadster Shop, Irvin. I mean Andrew. I don't know if I already said his name. I mean these guys. They're just great guys, and they're just here for a good cause. And they just, even after winning the truck, I go to the shows and they're just treat me like royalty. You go hang out in their trailer, let me park the truck there, my Lincoln there, hang out. I mean they're just the whole scene in general, the Good Guys and Roadster Shop, and really just the whole scene in general is just amazing. But yeah, these guys have been really, really awesome. On top of winning the truck, like literally, I mean, just even behind the scenes is just as special. Really, it really is.
Yeah, and what I want to do is I want to share this and I want to talk about kind of that relationship that you forged with those guys. Because again, I want to give a huge shout out. I got a chance to talk to the Roadster Shop guys a few years ago when I was helping street trucks at SEMA. You know, their booth was amazing. I'll pipe in some of the video here walking around. I remember doing this reel and putting like Sheila E., you know, and I was like a song to it, and I'm like, you know, a lot of people are gonna be like, "Well, why would you put?" And it was such a big hit because like you look at the colors of this truck, and it was just amazing. But here's something, here's an Easter egg that they may not know. Okay, what was intriguing to me, and thanks again to Dennis and Ashley and Fam for parking in the OLP booth at Lone Star Throwdown, the amount of people, high end hot rodders and guys that know their stuff that came by that dropped their jaw. And I was like, hey, I was like, you know, we got some cool friends at OLP. We're very lucky. Okay. But one of the Easter eggs that people don't realize is talk to them. This ties into your road trip home. There's a graphic on the lower door, okay, that almost looks like something Gooch would paint, right? Amazing painter, right? And it had my interest peaked because that was something I noticed that was missing. But can you talk to us about that? This little guy here?
Yes. So it's funny you mentioned that because I ran into Andrew. I think he's the vice president, CEO or COO over at Good Guys. I ran into him on Saturday at a show here in Keller, in my hometown, because he lives just right up the road. And he comes up to me, he goes, "Dude, you ruined the truck." I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" And he's like, "The sticker's gone." And he says this to me every time I see him. So anyway, long story short, when I acquired the truck, it had like 3,000 miles on it. And on the road trip home, it got so hammered, like I was saying earlier, that I had to pressure wash it. I didn't have a choice. I mean, dude, it was hammered, and literally just one little strip, and it was a sticker, it was a graphic, and it just peeled off. So yeah, that's not there at the moment, but I would like to get something eventually to replace that. Hope maybe not a sticker, something a little more permanent that won't come off with a pressure washer, but that's the story of how that got removed.
Yeah, I want to talk about a couple things because this truck, like literally, there were people because we're from that era. Even though we got a few years between us, we're from this era where you think of, you know, I mean, the '80s were full of the neon colors, the '90s, I mean, arguably as well, and you think of just how much epic stuff from the '80s and '90s era. But this is what like blew me away with the truck. It's OBS, boom, checks that box for many of us. Gendro, you got to meet Brian Gendro, the first to airbag a truck. And Gendro was
Yes.
talking about some of the, you know, the subtle body mods on this thing, right? And how like the body line, if I remember correctly, the body line has got a different taper to it,
Yes.
which is crazy. I love, although through and through, I love Colorado Custom Wheels. I will say, and I thank Billet Specialties. They follow us, we follow them. We always try to show them some love. They're arguably one of the biggest and baddest. Very similar wheel to what I have on my S10, so I absolutely love these wheels. But here was the
Yeah,
crazy
the
thing.
the SLC 75s. Yeah, they're beautiful.
Yeah, and seeing the chassis at SEMA, I just was blown away. I was talking to my buddy Scott today, Scotty the Body, and like when you look at what I kind of call the splatter paint and some of like I'll call these like Van Halen graphics. I know that's not the official term, but you see all these subtle things like the pink Tech Flex, right? And or whatever product they use. I've used Tech Flex before, but like it all ties together. But I love the guys for doing a tweed bench seat. Now, listen, you may decide to change it. Maybe, you know, some people go, I don't like it. Everybody that came up at LST, especially the mini trucker guys, the guy from our era, Dennis, they were like, dude, that is so cool that it has a tweed seat, man.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that because a lot. So the two questions I get the most is, "Are you going to sell it?" That's a hard no, not for sale. And the second one is, "What are you going to do to change it? What are you going to change?" And the question for that also is nothing. I feel that there's so much ingenuity and thought, and so many heads came to the table to create, in my eyes, this masterpiece. And I love it so much that nothing needs to be changed. And I just want to keep it a time capsule. I just literally I keep it literally in my garage covered. Since I've got it, since I took possession of it, and since I brought it home which is 1,100-mile trip. I've put less than 500 miles on it in almost 2 years.
It's a ton.
So it's very, it's very, I respect the truck. I only drive it in nice conditions. It stays, like, again, it stays covered in my garage. It's just, I can't justify changing anything, and I wouldn't want to change anything. And I do love the tweed seat, like you say, because it literally incorporates the whole scene. It all comes full force. It's
Yeah.
even making the LS3 look like a small block Chevy with the old school dog bone air cleaner. It's crazy.
Yeah, at a couple of the events they had the dyno with it, which we're all from this era. Whether you were born in '78 like me, or '85, which was a great year like Dennis. So many of us, like, I don't know what it is about a pink bike, dude. It just brings me literally right back. So that they displayed it with that. A couple things I want to reinforce is like inside the bed. Now I had it, dude. I was so thankful. Dennis goes, "Yo, at LST, like jump in it." And I was like, jump in I could sit in this thing, and we cruised over to the spot. It was so, dude, like, great experience. So thank you, Dennis. But like looking inside the bed, right? Our friend Joey Whitney a couple years ago, he did a unique thing with I think they call it wet deck, right? And this became kind of a thing. What they did was like far beyond anything I've seen, with guys doing the graphic that kind of matches under the hood. You've got the speaker control that's almost like reminds you like of a boat type deal, where I think you were telling me you can control the audio. Like, so if you're sitting there tailgating, whatever you want to call it, at a show, you can control the music right there.
Yeah, you can. You can do it from your phone right there. You can do it in the front, wherever. But yeah, so the graphics they kind of stem from the truck, the Van Hauler. Do you remember the Van
Yes.
Hauler back in the day that Boyd built?
Yep.
So it kind of has that Van Halen, Van Hauler type scheme going to it. But, it's what I like about it is it's not so in your face. It's very subtle. You have to open the hood or really look into bed to see how much detail. It's definitely a less is more type truck. Really, underneath the truck and under the hood is really where it's insane. The undercarriage of the truck is phenomenal. Like you were talking about, the loom and everything, and the color and everything. The brake lines are color coded and the end caps are color coded. Everything is, there's not one small detail that was missed, period. It is, just from the bumper to, everything. Even when you lift up the carpet, if I have to roll, pull the back seat, I keep, stuff back there, fire extinguisher, like every old car, things like that. Just the way the wires are run, it's insane. You look under the dash, everything is just dynamated and clean and loomed. And like literally, it's not just, thrown together. The time
It's
and
not a
energy.
hodgepodge. Yeah.
Yes,
And
the
and I
time and
want
energy
yeah.
is
Yeah, let me see if I can find, hold on one second. I don't know why it's doing this. I'm gonna share, okay, right here. So this was a photo. This is the cool thing I want you guys to know about Dennis too. Dennis, through and through, we've established car truck guy, right? Before LST, we were texting, and he goes, "Yo, Jay, I got it up, it's on my list. Look, I've been wiping the truck down," right? And this, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see right here, this is up on his lift, and this is what the chassis looks like underneath it, dude. It is truly a work of art. Even if I wasn't a truck guy, if I just was like a freestyle bike guy, or I was a '90s culture guy, like, you look at this, and when I saw it at SEMA, their booth was insane, okay? But just seeing the splatter paint, I won't name names, but people were coming up, like looking under the truck, like, is that an independent rear suspension? There's no way. And I was like 95% sure it was, because I remember seeing it and I was like, I think this is the same chassis, the giveaway. Like, you literally care for this thing like it was your third born. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. That's why I didn't want to drive it home from Ohio, but no, they're meant to be driven, right?
Right.
No, literally, I when I take it out, I wipe down the undercarriage. Clean that stays covered. I literally, you couldn't have said it better, like my third born. Yes. And
Yeah.
that picture was taken, I didn't drive it to LST, because the weather was not so hot.
And you brought your two kids and your wife, but you cruised it all around there.
Oh yeah. I trailered it, because the roads on the way there are kind of hindsight based off, traffic and everything else. I'm glad I trailered down there, but it rained. It was poor weather. But yeah, once I got it there and off the trailer, yeah, we cruised it around. The wife drove it around, I drove it around. Put the kids in the back. Just go cruise it, go have fun with it. You and I cruised around for a little bit, and it looked so killer in front of your booth because all the colors just bursted. It was all just like that truck was built for your little setup. And what it's the cool thing about it is, it's crazy how it all comes together because I can keep the truck at your booth and it doesn't really cause, I'm not saying it would, but like a conflict of interest. Like, I didn't build it, you didn't build it. These aren't those wheels. We're just a group of enthusiasts that are here, just love the scene. And, that this truck just matches your setup is even better. So
Yeah,
it literally couldn't have worked out any better. I can't wait for the next one. Super killer.
it was so cool because when we first had connected, I was like, man, you're going to want to park this thing inside. And you were like, no, I want to hang out and all this stuff. And it was so neat because I kept thinking, man, if Lonnie or Radar or Jared sees this truck, they're going to be like, follow us. We're going to take you right here. So it was just, me as an enthusiast, right? Taking everything away, just me, I'm a regular guy, which I truly am. But being at LS or being at SEMA, if you would have told me, yo, Jay, somebody is going to win this truck, you're going to become friends with them, they're going to park in your booth one day, like, I'd be like, dude, you're literally on like LSD or something, right? I don't know drugs, but I'd be like, dude, what are you talking about? So that was so cool. A couple questions that people ask me that I figured I'd just run by you is, you already answered the one, would you change anything? I concur. Like it's what it is, which I think is fantastic. Do you look at the truck and kind of go, wow, in 25 years, this is going to be like one of those trucks, like when different collections are sold, or they go a Chip Foose build, or rest in peace Gene Winfield, right? And those builds. And do you see like this type of build, this truck going up in value?
I never thought or looked at it that way, but then again, I mean, grew up with Crew Cut, and you know, Crew Cut went from the most you know modified, wild, radical truck there was to sitting in a warehouse, sold for $7,500 to Gas
That's,
Monkey.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, Rollins.
yeah,
Richard
yeah.
Rollins, sorry, Richard Rollins.
Yeah, Richard. I'm sorry, Richard Rollins. So, and to watch that truck come back all the way to the one of the most famous fights, and then now Dave Schulman owns it. I mean, who would have thought, right? I mean, it literally, like, I feel like it was at a pinnacle, and then no one wanted it, and now it's kind of back to where it needs to be. But I don't know. I never looked at it as an item to sell. So
Yeah.
maybe, I mean, but there's so many builds out there. And every year, you go to SEMA or Dino's or even, Good Guys, the bar is just getting raised and raised and raised and raised. But I mean, maybe one day it'll be at that level. To me, it'll always be at that level, maybe only because I'm in love with the truck. But maybe one day, I think a lot of people be like, what happened to that truck? Because I don't take it out much. They're like, where did it go? Where is it? Where's it been? So it's kind of, I wouldn't say, under the radar. I just only drive it when it's really nice outside.
Yeah, and that was the cool thing with becoming friends with you, because I was intrigued by that because I knew it was coming up. And then it was like, okay, it was one. So it was neat to kind of know that someone that's a true enthusiast, someone that's going to appreciate it. You could argue, somebody could say, well, like sometimes people go, well, people don't bring their stuff out as much or whatever. But I was like, but how many trucks have been brought out and thrashed because the people don't care about them? I'm like a type of guy where I don't know, I'm so OCD that like I want to keep a pair of Jordans in the box, and like 20 years later be like, wow, I have them and they're brand new, right? And some people think I'm
Right.
insane for doing that. But like I appreciate the fact that like you won this truck and you're like, yo, I'm keeping this thing in really nice condition, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, again, I respect, everybody who came to the table, or the amount of work, even, the hands-on guys, the behind the scenes guys, the designers, the CAD drawers, to think of what mastermind, puts a, ZL1 Camaro rear end where you don't have to cut the bed floor just only for the tubs. I mean, the independent suspension, the giant brakes, I mean, just one-off chassis. I mean, just to think of all that coming together is just unreal. I mean, I couldn't think of changing anything. And I love white. I love the fact that it's all white.
Yep. Yep. I think
I
that's
just love
awesome.
everything about it. I really, I just, yeah, it's
Now I
amazing,
want to throw
amazing
this
truck.
out there. Ty Zito,
But yeah,
long time mini trucker, our friends at Twin States. Now I did a video recently on this. I didn't highly promote it, but this I think could be a line in the sand to kind of see where we're going with these OBS prices, because this truck obviously was the late 2024 truck of the year. Of course, this truck is more along what I would refer to as a sport truck, right? I talked to Eli and Justin about it. They built this truck for Ty and some, Gooch painted and stuff. But obviously the two trucks are light years apart, like, in terms of the style. Okay. But I will be interested because this truck is going for no reserve at Mecum coming up on May 15th. So like in about 30 days from now at
I did know it
Indianapolis.
was going to Mecum, but I did not know about the reserve.
Yeah, which I thought was kind of crazy because to your point, Mecum, many of you know, you can do a reserve there. Barrett Jackson's, you roll the dice. So it's going to be interesting. But to your point, like I love the answer because you go, well, look, man. I mean, who doesn't want to like maybe buy a stock and kind of go, well, yeah, and 20 years later it went up, right? But the cool thing is for the listeners, like Dennis isn't even thinking about that, right? It's just like, yo, I grew up. We established the area. You got into cars and trucks. You fell in love with the Lincoln. You probably, like me, like many of us, we're getting a little older and we go, yeah, one day I'll throw together an OBS, something, and you end up with this and you just go, man, like to me that truck, like what Roadster Shop and the partners, I know Dakota Digital, Goodguys had their hands in making a lot of this happen. I mean, dude, I can't describe it any other way on that build but a mic drop.
But I mean, and it's like, if you think about it like on a financial aspect, or if I want to sell it or anything, it's like, right now is a golden time. It's in style, it's hot, it's more or less fresh out the bag because it hasn't been on the scene for that long. So if you want to capitalize, now would be a good time. To your point, versus the Indie Killer truck. But I'm just not in that position to do that.
Yeah.
So, and again, each their own. I didn't, even if I did, I even told myself, why would I ever sell this truck? Even if I did, if I did win it, all the things, the crazy stuff that goes in your head pre-winning the truck. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to keep it? Are you going to sell it? I'm like, dude, you're not selling this truck.
Yeah. Now, we'll start kind of winding down here because I don't want to take much more of your time, but I know I want to give a shout out. I know I don't get to connect with Ronnie from C10 Talk and OBS Talk as much. And I love what he does over there. And if I remember correctly, from several years back, his son had went and was either working there or was doing an internship type thing with Roadster Shop. To be Roadster Shop, they are an amazing group of people that have come up with, I mean, the era that we're in now, like, back in the day, you had a couple of chassis builders and things like that, but nothing to the extent of what we're seeing, what these guys are doing and what Ken Diggett is doing. And it's just
Yeah,
amazing craftsmanship, right?
right.
So just talk to us briefly, right? By winning this truck and being the true lucky recipient of it, it has allowed for you to forge a great relationship with Roadster Shop. And even, I think you said, you had told me before, the Goodguys, one of the head guys you mentioned recently, he's not that far from you. So you see him like at local shows. I mean, how cool is that stuff?
Oh, it's super cool. I mean, and even if I didn't win the truck, I mean, I don't think I'd be so connected with Roadster Shop because,
Sure.
you Goodguys, puts on the whole show. But I mean, just a great group of guys. And again, every show, the Roadster Shop guys, still they, I go in their trailer, they literally treat me like gold. They just, even after the fact, they're just awesome, great people. I have any questions, Phil, he'll get with me and help me out with whatever I need. Just, dude, just great people. I mean, just can't say enough good
Yeah.
things about them.
Yeah, and if you guys are watching this on YouTube, you're going to see here some different, I mean, hit up their website. Like, even if, I mean, I'm not in the market, unfortunately, to be able to buy something that they have, but I will tell you, when I think of some of the shops that have changed the game, we think back to IF Customs, what Kerry Iacino did, around that time, Jeff Sanders at KRZ Customs, you'll remember, that shop. Like, you had this body drop thing that many truckers kind of pulled forward from the old hot rodders channeling and stuff like that. Body drops were the biggest thing going in the 90s, and arguably they kind of still are. But now with these stock floor body drops and these one-off chassis, like, to me, it's like on another level. So even though I may not be in a position, or maybe I'm not ready to do a build like that, I look at it and say, I tip my cap to a Roadster Shop. I tip my cap even to a Goodguys, right? Because they might go, well, how many, is that really going to help us, this and that? Dude, what that team, that collective team pulled together, nothing short of amazing, dude. And I'm glad to say that I know you as a friend, because it was so neat seeing that truck. And I'm telling you guys, like, when Dennis gets a little bit more time, he's busy with his business and family. And if you get a chance to see this truck at an event anywhere in the country, it's worth seeing in person. It is freaking cool.
No, I appreciate that. And I'm always at every Goodguys. I mean, not by contract or anything. It's just any show, like I talked about earlier, I got little kids and I have a business, and things are, crazy with like anybody in life right now. But if I'm not with them, I'm at a show. It's like I kind of have like two tracks. I'm either with my kids doing some kid or wife stuff, or I'm with the truck or the Lincoln at a show. So yeah, I mean, feel free. I'm at every Good Guys. I'll be at Good Guys at April 25th here coming up around the corner.
With the Chevy.
Yeah, I take both cars. I take the Lincoln and the Roadster Shop truck, Good Guys Roadster Shop truck. What I'll do is I'll leave it in their booth all weekend, and that way I don't have to drive it back and forth. And everybody wins, right? They get to show it off. Good Guys gets to show it off. It gets to stay there, and
That's
everybody
cool.
wins.
Yeah.
So, and
And
even
to
even
see like they
even
do
with,
yeah, sorry.
I'm sorry, even with your booth, I mean, it's just awesome. And I would love, hopefully the weather's better next year at LST, but I would love to do that again. And people say bring it inside, and I'm like, no, I'm cool right here. I'm good. You know what I mean? I don't need to. It'd be cool to be inside, but I like to support you and your company. So I felt like it was a real win-win on that aspect too.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And what would be neat too is we kind of kept it under wraps, right? Because I didn't want to go out there blabbing about it. But knowing what we know now, Grant Cox, he shoots for CK. Like he showed us some love doing some social media for CK when he peeled away. But if and when we do that again, like we could promote it a little bit and tell people like, hey, come by, come see it. Like you don't have to buy anything. Come by. Let's enjoy the conversations. Let's talk about it because that's what it's
Right.
about. Ronnie has that famous coined,
Right.
phrase, the trucks are cool, but the people are cooler. Nobody's going to argue with that. And I think that's fantastic. I do, again, want to tell people, check out the oil and whiskey. If you think about Roadster Shop, like they sponsor, I think at some of the big auctions, it's like the chassis cam and the stuff that, I mean, it's almost like the Super Bowl of stuff that they're doing. And it's so neat to see it. It's so neat to see them grow. And it's also cool to see our scene continue to push forward, right, into this next evolution of just insanity. I became friends with Brian Fuller, who was on Carfix. And Brian used to work for Chip Foose. He's in Georgia. He just brought together a whole collective. Chip Foose was there, 20 people, and they're building a one-off hand car. Saltworks was, using some of these newer tools that can basically shape the metal right there, almost like a 3D printer. And some people go, well, this and that. It still takes technicians to be able to do this stuff, right? So to me, anything that pushes the scene forward to me is good, man.
Yeah, and I mean, Foos, I mean, I grew up with him, basically around the corner from me, and he's a cool dude, and I've always loved his style, the beachy, hot rod, slammed, you know, big wheels. I just love, he's a cool dude, and I love his style. Obviously he stemmed from Boyd Coddington from early on in the day, and it's so cool to watch these guys come together and do things like, Dave Kindig. I mean, he's just absolutely, what he does is incredible.
Yeah.
So yeah, it would still takes a team of people with creativity and minds and technicians, like you say, to produce these masterpieces. A lot of heads have to come to the table, bring a rendering. How are we going to get this paper to the garage floor? How are we going to make this all come together? And it's really just to watch the recipe just come into fruition is just beautiful
Well, yeah.
for a lot of these builds. Any build,
Well,
really.
Well, when Snoop Dogg's album was going to come out in 93, they said it was one of the most anticipated albums of all time. I mean, this has been like an interview that I've been anticipating. Even though we became friends and I knew the answer to some of the questions, I was so intrigued because I know some of the folks, depending on if you listen to longer podcasts, you're thinking, wow, this is a longer one. I wanted you guys to hear the different facets of it, but I also wanted you to hear that it was like, I mean, not that I ever questioned it, but it's so unique to me that there was no, oh, he got lucky. I mean, yeah, you got lucky, but there was not like, any like, why I did this or I did that. It was kind of like, it was so lucky, like it's just unbelievable. And I wanted people to know that it was really cool, but it also went to a really good guy, a great family, someone that's going to appreciate it, someone that's going to continue to bring in shows, someone that's forged a relationship with Roadster Shop and the good guys, kinfolk out there. And it's all about the scene, dude. So that's freaking cool, dude.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And I thought about like, obviously this is my third born, but like, what if someone who bought it like didn't have like one? I'm sorry, didn't get doesn't have a garage. They don't care about the truck. Do you see it, on eBay or in a carport? Like, I just couldn't imagine someone putting all this work, time, energy, and effort to just watch it just basically just dissipate. Yes. Like a lot of builds do. I mean, super high end builds. It's like, how did you go from the last show to that car being absolutely perfect, spotless, to a barn find. Like, what happened?
Yeah,
You know what
like
I mean? And I didn't want this truck to go, or well, thank God it, I own it, but you know, the fact that it didn't go to, like, you see it in a year from now and it's just, you go to pick your kids up and it's got, goldfish on the floor and, just, baseball bags in the back. I mean, who knows, right? You never know.
you don't. And we've seen it. There's a famous group in our scene, Mini Truckin', which is one word, where are they now? And we've seen these epic trucks that we grew up loving and appreciating, and they're just gone, because they sat outside. And granted, I mean, there are extenuating circumstances, but none of us want to see that. Do you want me to give you a quick shout out for the business? I know a lot of people don't know. They might see you and go, man, you're a clean cut guy, Dennis. And you are. But listen,
No,
this
look at,
this
hold on,
mofo here,
look at these arms. Look at, I'm all hammered
I was
up,
gonna say,
man.
this mofo here, I mean that with respect, he knows how to get his hands dirty way more than. And when I was talking to Dennis and he starts throwing terms around, I'm like, this guy knows his stuff. So that's the other cool thing, as
Yeah.
Travis Nowak would say, get out. He's not scared to get out there and throw some wrenches.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so I own a auto repair slash restoration shop in Keller called Whinnery Automotive, my last name. And we do anything from commercial roadside big rigs to a chassis on a C10 to a Nova that caught on fire recently to, I mean, anything and everything. If you got a minivan that needs an AC compressor, or your like you say, your classic car caught on fire, or your big rig is dead on the side of the road, we handle pretty much everything.
Which is
So
fantastic. And you guys are a very small business, right? I mean, I don't know. You don't have to go into a lot
yes.
of detail, but I think like the way you Ashley kind of explained it too is you guys are you try to keep things where you can manage it yourselves.
Yes, I did. In California, I did roadside diesel repair for 13 years, and it's brutal. I mean, it's a young man's game. Then I had my kids, and I was like, I need to slow down a little bit. Like, you're good. So I moved here in 2018 and just basically reinvented the wheel when I moved here, but kind of tailored it to a way where I can spend more time with my family. Because for anybody listening out there, your family time is precious. Don't let it take it for granted. Just please spend all the time you can with your family. It's so easy to get wrapped up in work and on this trip and that trip and, this email, let me do this. We're all guilty of it, right? Being on our phones, social media. So the fact that I can be, with my family and have that free time, and, obviously you still have a business to run, but I really found my niche, and it's been a blessing and just been amazing. The company has been awesome, super busy, great customers, great clientele, awesome area. So really, it's been literally just a dream come true.
Yeah. Well, good for you. Like we talked about pre,
Best man in the world, I can promise you that.
yeah, and like we talked about pre, recording, that it's like that's important stuff. And I always encourage people all the time, like, find what you love. Some of us get up, we go to jobs and we love them, and there's other folks that go, man, like my friend Paul, his dad one time said, well, we were talking about something. He worked for dealerships his whole life as a mechanic, great mechanic. And there was talk that this dealership at the end of his career was going to close. And someone said something. He goes, yeah, a guy the other day asked me, well, what are you going to do if you lose your job? He goes, find another one. He goes, I found this one when I was looking for a job, and as basic as that sounds, I think it really holds true. Find something you love to do. And, you'll never work a day in your life, as the famous saying goes.
No, and that's the truth. I mean, again, I forge just with, with all my, classic car customers, we end up being buddies. We all have the same interest. We're all, again, like, a broken down big rig, or, again, the minivan that needs something. I love just the automotive industry, and I love what I do. So whatever it is, I find enjoyment in it, and always trying to find, even, someone has to spend money on their vehicle and they don't want to, just always trying to turn a positive or a negative into a positive.
My
It's
dad
all
said
you
that all
can
the
do.
time, man. I love that.
So I know we all get caught up in, everything, but if you can, you can do what you love. That's all I got to say. Just do what you love. Find it. And if you're in a stagnant position, you want to make a move, whatever you want to do, just take a leap of faith with good morals and you will succeed.
Dude, I think we end on that. I will tell you guys this as well. Dennis has said it. He's not a big social media guy, which I also appreciate on top of it, because it wasn't like when him and his family won this truck, they were out there, look, we won, you didn't, we won, you didn't. Not saying he would have ever done that, but again, it just shows that, like, Dennis has got his nose to the grind, family first, always, business, of course, right there, but also getting out there doing what you love, and certainly you're doing with the 6FO and the OBS. So I can't wait to hang out at another show. I can't thank you enough, Dennis, for taking the time. Give a huge shout out to Ashley and the kids, and stay on the rise, my brother. Any last
buddy,
words?
I really appreciate it.
Any last words?
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Goodguys, Roadster Shop, everybody who's watching. Honestly, chase your dreams. Just do what you love. Be with your family. We're reminiscing about when we were kids in the early 2000s. Now we're over 40. So just life's too short. Do what you love. Be good. Stay humble.
1, 2, 3 into the 4. ODB and Dennis Whinnery are at the door, but we got to go now. Dude, we love some G-Funk. We grew up in a great era, and I appreciate you, brother. And I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Stay on the rise, everyone.